Hey, good morning, patrons. Welcome to the morning take, the morning analysis for Wednesday. I believe today is May 9th. I'm outside again. It's a beautiful, beautiful day, beautiful weather here in Georgia. My neighbor's house behind me. Real quick, listen, if you want to live in a nice neighborhood for like no money whatsoever, like half the price that we spent in Boston, come to the South. Just come to the South. I mean, where we're living now, we're paying half as much as we were paying in Boston, just drowning. I mean, like $2,500 a month for a 2-bedroom piece of crap. My producer Max, he came over to my house to help me move, so he knows the kind of shithole we lived in. But for all kinds of insane money, and like for half of that, we get to live in a really nice neighborhood. So it's not that we're rich, not that that matters, but it's the fact that it's just so much more expensive in the South. That's not what I'm talking about right now for the morning analysis. What I want to talk about is two things. I want to give you a heads up. Something I'm considering, and I want your opinion on it. I'm thinking about shifting gears on the podcast slightly to the benefit of patrons and making a full Wednesday and Thursday podcast available only to patrons. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday would be for everyone. Tuesday, Thursday would be patrons only. That's a way of distinguishing you from the rest of the audience, as well as obviously a way for me to get more patrons, because we do need the support. Let me know what you think. The reason I've never done that before is because, maximum exposure, you try to push as far and wide as you can, make your content available as to many as possible. I think we're past that threshold at this point. All right, that's number one. Number two, I'm also going to shift gears in terms of content that I cover slightly. I'm pulling back, and I'm going to put more emphasis on the reason I got into this in the first place. It's really easy to get into these edge arguments on the left and to try to be the arbiter of reason, the paragon of rationality, so to speak. And it's cool and it's necessary, and I will always do those things, especially when I feel the need to. I'm never going to like bite my tongue and just be quiet. But there's a big gaping hole in some serious pushback against this quote unquote intellectual dark web. If you read the piece in the New York Times by Bari Weiss, where she's basically promoting, she's like the, I don't want to call her the handmaiden, but she's almost like the midwife, like giving birth even to the intellectual dark web onto the national stage in a sanitized format. And it's so ubiquitous. It's so, I mean, if you look at Facebook, if you look at Twitter, if you look at particularly YouTube, I mean, there are dozens of these people with millions of followers, hundreds of millions of, well, tens of millions of views. And it's becoming so pervasive that if we don't push back, like all hands on deck to push back against it, they're going to get an advantage in the new culture wars and in recruitment. Because let's be real, like they're impressionable young adults, particularly men, who could fall on the side of a Jordan Peterson, or they could fall on the side of, notwithstanding the racial component, a Ben Dixon or a Michael Brooks. There are some limitations in terms of race, and me and Mike Brooks talked about it the other day, but it's like some people are lost and they literally come to YouTube. I don't know why, but they do. They come to YouTube to find some answers and some solutions and something to make sense of their world. And they, people like the Koch brothers know this. And the reason I bring up the Koch brothers is because they're like the financial backers to some of these intellectual dark web people. They're conservative. And it's not just the Koch brothers, the Mercer Foundation. There's a couple of other organizations of billionaires who understand the value of this astroturfed movement. AstroTurf meaning it's not grassroots, it's not organic, but it has the appearance of grass, right? It's being funded. These guys have millions of dollars behind them. Millions of dollars. They have funders who are billionaires, who pay their bills, who give them everything that they need to get them off the ground and running. Meanwhile, I'm here, begging patrons and thank you for what you do. But, we just have such a huge structural disadvantage. And now their arguments are coming into the mainstream because that was always the plan. It was always the plan to fund these YouTubers to the point where they can create an online consensus enough to be able to be in the public limelight with enough support to never have to worry about the ramifications of their thoughts and their words and their actions. And what I mean by that is, like, literally yesterday on Morning Joe, Barry Weiss forwarded the idea that, like, without even batting an eye, that there's a biological difference between women that could be at the root of women not being in STEM or being underrepresented in STEM. And then in the same breath, she said that there's just some cultures that are detrimental to the growth of human civilization. I'm like, really? That's what we're forwarding? That's what's become mainstream enough to be on Morning Joe, right? And that was the plan all along. So I'm shifting gears in terms of my focus, my laser-like focus, and we don't really have time for these edge arguments in progressive circles anymore, because we're fighting each other and not fighting back against that. And that is exactly why I got into politics in the first place. You know, you had to, maybe you had to let people know where you're from. You had to let people know what you stand for. You had to let people know what you won't stand for, even in your own corner of leftism and progressivism. I get it. You have to establish yourself. All that stuff is fine and well. But enough's enough, man. What progressive media outlet can actually go up against the intellectual dark web, the so-called intellectual dark web? All we have is the Young Turks, and they don't take on those arguments as often as need to. They're covering just regular news every day or whatever is clickable. No shade. But anyway, so that's one thing. So on today's show, if you hang tight, I'm going to get the show finished up. I just had to come outside because it was beautiful. You hear the birds in the background. Today's show, I'm kind of covering the Iranian nuclear deal, a little bit more about the so-called intellectual dark web, and a couple other things that I might drop in there. But those two definitely will be in today's show. All right, leave some comments in the comment section, and we'll talk to you soon.